We're just gonna wait for a little bit for people to roll in, and then we'll kick off the community office hours. Thanks for showing up. We'll be starting in a few minutes.
Sheesh. Gotta fix that background noise you got.
Yeah, there's there's some people out on the street that are making like a ton of noise. That's coming through my mic pretty heavy or what?
Big time.
Okay, let me see what I can do. Give me a moment.
Just go out there and yell at them. That is all.
All right, how's that? Is that much more silent? Background, no background noise, hopefully.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's much
sir.
better. Did you go outside and kill all of them?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
straight up killed them all.
Good job.
Yeah,
Proud
I
of
was
you.
like, yo, we're having a Fjord community hours. And yeah, they all died.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, it's been a few minutes. I think we can probably get started here. Give me just one moment and we'll kick this off. All right, so yeah, apologize, I'm a little sick, so if I break out coughing or can't talk for a moment, that's why. But yeah, just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone for showing up to our community office hours. This is the first one we've held in really long time. If maybe the first one ever, I'm not even sure honestly, but I know it's been a while, if any. So thanks for coming out. We're gonna start holding these every other week, just to start keeping the community more up to date about what we're doing, how the stats are looking from a numbers perspective, what kind of features and product releases we have coming down the pipeline, just to give a little bit more granular and regular updates. So yeah, thanks for showing up. We'll be recording these as well. So if you can't make them every time, or you're a little late, you missed something, we'll have them recorded and probably post them up on our YouTube as well as here in Discord, so people can rewatch them or watch them for the first time if they can't make it. So yeah, just to give a quick start, to start this out, we'll give like a stats update. So as far as total funds that Fjord has raised, we've almost hit the 1 billion total funds raised mark, which is a huge milestone for us. We're not quite there, but we're at 992.7 million. So just barely like 7 million more to go for us to hit that milestone, which is pretty crazy. I think we'll be there fairly soon, probably within the next few weeks or sooner. And then as far as total swap volume on Fjord, we've hit a little bit over 1.5 billion. And then with fee revenues, we're looking at 29.3 million in total fee revenues. So just $700,000 until we hit that 30 million mark. So we're coming up on a lot of milestones that I think are pretty great to see. As far as total LBPs, we have 676 total, so almost to that 700 mark. Probably be there in the next month or so, and then over 100,000 total participants, 103,500. So yeah, that's a quick update on major stats that we're always looking at. If you ever want to look these up for yourself, they're on our Dune dashboard. Our Dune dashboard is dune.com/gooddata_bad guy/Fjord Foundry overview. So I think you can find that in our link section. But if you're ever curious about that, you can check it out on Dune. But yeah, moving on to recent product releases. So far, we just released cross-chain zaps. So we did have same chain zaps before, but now users can swap most assets from most chains directly into LBPs to get LBP tokens. And yeah, that's by using Li-Fi and Stargate technology integrated with Fjord's platform. So that's pretty exciting. Just making it easier for users to get into LBPs regardless of the chain they're on. Another thing that we just rolled out that's not really live yet, but will be soon, is this thing called an LBP Spotlight. And so what this does is it enables LBP creators to pay for this special LBP Spotlight feature that puts them on the top of the LBP page. And this helps them, stand out, get more visibility. Allows them to put a banner of themselves, as opposed to the normal LBP cards, which are a little bit smaller. And the cool thing about this is the way that this helps the community too is this the fees that they pay to get featured on the Spotlight go directly to stakers. So just more, revenue share for those participating in the Fjord ecosystem. So yeah, that's what we just recently popped out on the product side. And what's coming up next is Solana deployment of LBPs. So this is mainly centered around more serious projects, right? Just like how we have going on the rest of the chains that we are on. So I think that's big. There's a lot of activity going on in Solana. But as we know, there's beyond just serious projects, there's a lot of meme coin activity on Solana as well. So we're also going to be rolling out a specific Solana meme coin suite. So basically just making it as easy and simple as possible for people to launch meme coins on Solana. Taking away the collateral limitations, so people can just basically just like launch super easily with basically zero barrier to entry. We're still working out, details on that, but it is something that is we're pushing ahead on like pretty aggressively. So that's pretty exciting. Other things that we're working on that are coming out soon are LBP redemption delays. So what this does is it allows LBP creators up to 24 hours to seed liquidity on exchanges before allowing LBP buyers to redeem the tokens. Because what would happen sometimes is that LBP creators would get like front ran, and this totally stops that from happening. Another thing that we have coming down the pipeline is LBP hard raise caps. So yeah, what this does basically is it stops this LBP sale immediately after a certain amount of capital is raised. So LBP creators set this specific target to raise towards, and this can have like the added effect of like not exhausting all the demand for the sale, as opposed to just letting the sale like run and run and run until the end. And it also kind of sets like a more of like a psychological target as well, I think. So that can be useful, and we think that'll be really great value add to the platform. And the other thing that we're working on is omni-chain automatic LP deployments. So, after the end of the sale, it's up to like the creator to deploy on, like Uniswap or Bounce or wherever, like whatever DEX they want to. But this feature will allow them to automatically like set a certain percentage of liquidity that they want to deploy on all these different DEXs, and just automatically do it for them. I know there's been like some issues in the past with certain LBP projects that are like not really doing the best job with deploying their LPs afterwards. Maybe they're new and they're confused about it, or they're not really quite sure the best way to do it, or they're slow to do it. It causes panic. So this will kind of help facilitate that process and just make it much easier on the creator side, and give more transparency as well to those that are buying into the LBPs. And then last but not least is what we have working on is Fjord v3. So this is basically like going to be a complete overhaul of Fjord's current platform, and we'll be moving from like an LBP platform only to raise any way you want to type of platform, whether it be like a private KOL round or an LBP or any other type of like sale that you guys see out there. Eventually we'll be able to do that all here on Fjord. So it won't just be limited to LBPs. LBPs are great, right? There's a reason why they're so popular and why they're our bread and butter. But we think there's, a lot of other opportunity to capture other types of sale types in the market through Fjord, and feed the fees and revenues and opportunities that we get through there back to our community, and back to our token holders and stakers. And so this is gonna be like our big effort at that. So basically everything that we're working on now is all going to be on that platform, but there's a lot more things coming down the pipeline, but it's all going to be included in there. And like if you read one of the recent thread that we have, the thread we have pinned, it outlines a lot of the other things that we're kind of working on. All that's going to be thrown into V3 as well. And more things like vesting and liquidity management and receipt tokens, all kinds of things like that. Limit orders, DCAing, referral systems, all kinds of stuff. So I don't want to leak too much alpha, but yeah, that's a few of the things that we're working on that are pretty exciting. Hope you guys are excited about it as well. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Voke real quick to see if there's anything he wanted to add here before we jump into the AMA portion of this office hour session.
No, well, a good deal of it gets covered, even with a lot of the flash questions that got submitted prior. I know some of them weren't fully answered. I was saving a lot of them for today, so I can start going through those. And then if anybody else wants to ask new ones in the chat, either the stage chat or even the flash questions, still, I'll get to them once I kind of go through the ones that were already asked.
Cool.
We kind of covered it already regarding Solana. I can add a little bit more clarity to it and kind of like where it is stage wise. So the audit is still ongoing. It's about a estimate of like 1.5 weeks left before it's actually finished, and we can kind of review the findings of it and then get to the deployment on that front. So that's kind of like where we're at on an actual like timeline basis for it. Then I know a lot of people were asking about exchanges. I can't comment specifically on like the actual exchanges that we're talking to and working with on listing, but it is happening. So I know a lot of people are curious about, if there's any progress there. It is happening on the back end. So, fear not in that respect. Another one that somebody asked was plans to expand to Polkadot, specifically to compatible EVM parachains like Moonbeam. It's definitely not like off the table. It's just something that necessarily hasn't warranted a lot of demand, at least up until this point. I'm sure as we go deeper into the cycle, a lot of that changes. We also have more ability and more flexibility to kind of prioritize chains maybe that we didn't put a lot of onus on, let's say, right, as we are right now, like with a lot of the ones that we've kind of prioritized, like specifically Solana is probably the most important one, just based on like an activity basis, generalized demand for it. And that's not even like regarding like meme coins. That's actually just for like even like normal, quote unquote, let's call them serious projects, if you will, right? A lot of them are looking to utilize the LBP model on Solana itself. So that's going to be kind of the big one right there that we first tackle. Next thing was a question regarding what inspired the development of Fjord v2. That's pretty easily kind of like summarized just in the sense that the V1 site just had very poor performance overall, required a full overhaul. So we had to do that. And some additional context there is also that we wanted to add in new features. So originally it was all deployed on the balancer smart contracts. So we made and deployed our own, and that gives us a lot more flexibility when it comes to whatever type of features we want to add in, and especially when it comes to like adding in new verticals, right? So that's kind of the main like impetus really there for why we did all of that. Another one that kind of tags onto that question as well is how does the Fjord Foundry, how do we plan to like enhance user experience with the V2 upgrade? I mean, I would say kind of like what I already covered, discussing the V1 to V2 reasoning for why we did that upgrade. It's largely been handled when it comes to just the overall like performance. I would say a lot of the stability of the site is a lot better now. Of course, it can get a little buggy when we're adding in new features, but those usually get ironed out pretty quickly. So we're kind of just going to keep that cadence, iterate new features, and keep it going from there. Next up, so Equinox already kind of tackled this one as well on the user experience side and how we've been adding in the cross-chain swaps, apps, limit orders, stuff like that. Those are all coming. A lot of them are going to be in the V3 upgrade. I can kind of walk down the list there a little bit right now. Some have been mentioned, but like for example, fixed price sales, price banded sales, the min-max raises are going to be a big one. Equinox kind of touched on those as well. Tranche sales, overflow sales, zero collateral is actually live right now. So that one can be fully leveraged already. It's enabled on the UI. So that one is out and ready to go. Some of the more like post-sale modifiers as well are going to come down to, Equinox also mentioned it, like being able to actually set and transparently display how much is going to liquidity for the for the LP rollover once the sale ends. So that'll be a big one. I think that'll help a lot. A lot of teams have unfortunately kind of fumbled when they come to LP deployment or whether that's like just messing it up or generally not seeding enough liquidity. So this will be a good remedy for that. Next thing. So I also kind of touched on this a little bit too, but can you elaborate on the phased rollout approach for introducing new features in V2? I mean, I just think it makes the most sense if you're able to iterate continually, add in whatever features you want, redeploy, audit as needed, and basically just keep doing it that way. Doesn't make a lot of sense to hold things up and try and do like these giant releases, I guess. Like a lot of the times it makes more sense to find certain features that you can easily add in and get them going, especially if they're like higher priority. They will generally benefit users more or be able to get more projects through the door to conduct LVPs on Fjord. That's kind of like the mentality around it, at least in my view. So I think it's been working generally pretty well for us, so we're going to keep doing it that way. Next up are, what benefits does token investing offer participants in liquidity bootstrapping pools? I mean, it's largely a tool for the actual LVP creators, so projects themselves. And that's primarily just if they have, basically the desire to, let's say, manage unlocks better. They're able to do so by adding vesting parameters onto the LVP that they're doing. A lot of the times, too, that might be useful if they're doing like a receipt token sale initially, and they need to migrate later on, and maybe they want those vested, stuff like that. I mean, you could say from a user perspective that could translate to like a volatility reduction in a post LVP kind of like DEX trading environment. So there's also I would say the opportunity for that for like a user benefit regarding it if projects leverage it more. Next one. So someone asked, will vesting tokens be eligible to stake? I think this was answered in the chat already, but I'll just go over it again real quick anyway. So when staking is live, the concave holders, seed extension, and balancer DAO are able to stake unvested tokens in addition to the liquid ones. And then any buddy that basically acquires publicly can also stake all of the, basically unvested native FJO tokens. Another question someone had was, how does the buy only LVP model differ from traditional LVPs? Why was it introduced in V2? That really just boils down to the fact that it was requested a lot by projects that wanted to launch via Fjord. A lot of them had mentioned, wanting to conduct a buy only LVP. So main difference there, kind of like, pretty inherent in the name. It's just that it augments the LVP model where instead of buying and selling activity happening, it's only able to, have buy swaps go through. I covered this a little bit, talking about kind of the V3 suite, everything like that. But yeah, zero collaterals are available now. It's live for everybody. It's enabled on the UI, easy to set up. So they are good to go. I'm expecting they'll be quite popular on the Solana deployment. Next question was, what advantages does the custom token redemption feature bring to participants in LBPs? That's another feature that's also really more for LBP creators. So the main thing there is that you're going to have the ability as an LBP creator to LBP a receipt token and airdrop a different one later on in place of it. So it's just going to make it a lot smoother of basically our process overall, just because sometimes, like, I think a good example would be like Glue that did a node sale as an LBP. They're basically working with a receipt token initially. If this was live then, at least it would be a lot smoother process for them to kind of get everybody squared away later on once they have to exchange that receipt token. So that's just another little perk to kind of just make it easier and more attractive for projects to go to Fjord. Another question was, how will the soft and hard caps contribute to ensuring transparent and fair LBPs? I think the main point here is that it allows for LBPs to prevent sometimes what is a common issue is if there's too much demand for them, it can exhaust it. So the main thing is that if there's an overwhelming amount of buying activity and it's potentially exhausting demand, if it hits that hard cap, it'll just end the sale there based on that predefined parameter. So you don't have to run the risk of that happening. And then additionally for soft caps, that ensures kind of LBP participants that if the LBP doesn't meet whatever that minimum reserve mark is, then they will be refunded on the sale. So that can help a lot of LBP participants out if they're not necessarily meeting the mark on a demand basis. Can you explain the concept of price bands and how they will be implemented in V2? So main thing here is that it's going to allow the creator to kind of define a minimum and a maximum price that persists throughout the duration of the LBP. So you can just think of that basically that a swap that would exceed the limit in either direction on that min or max, right? It has to be at least set at that limit. It can't exceed it. So you can think of it like it's a bounded kind of sale. So there's almost like you're constructing like I guess the best way you can maybe conceptualize it is just like if you're familiar with Bollinger Bands, right? So it's almost like you're trying to constrain volatility, essentially. Next question was, what benefits do limit orders offer participants in V2 LBPs? So I think the main thing there is that limit orders are just naturally a good way to streamline and make it easier for users to basically construct a DCA strategy on LBPs, or even just to further automate and kind of make the process easier for users to engage with LBPs, because they can be over quite a long duration sometimes. I mean, usually they're running for 3 days. Some could be running longer. So predetermining different levels that you want to actually participate in, I think is just all in all a good kind of like UI UX ability for users to engage with on a feature level. And then they also asked regarding that is kind of how they'll work. So that's going to primarily be utilizing the Uni v4 hooks. So I'm not sure how familiar people are with it, but basically, in like when Uni v3 came out with concentrated liquidity, you can essentially construct pseudo limit orders with the kind of concentrated liquidity range that you set. And now with v4 with the hooks, you're actually able to do just full on limit orders this time, so it makes it a lot easier. That's kind of been determined to be the best way to go about implementing it. Next up was, how will whitelisting enhance security and exclusivity for LBPs? I wouldn't say it necessarily does any of that, to be honest. It's just another feature request by projects. We're looking to be able to serve and provide features that both kind of meet the demand from the user and project creation side for LBPs. So that's just another one that's been requested that we've added in. Another one was, what role does the leaderboard feature play for fostering community engagement? Big thing about that is just kind of adding like a social fi element on top of LBPs. So like a big thing there, like feature wise, that's going to be achieved with it is like copy trading people, stuff like that. So I would just conceptualize as more of a just adding another social fi layer on top of Fjord. You can also view like participation history, notifications for pools that haven't claimed yet, stuff like that. Can you elaborate on the fixed price sales feature? So that one also kind of self-explanatory, I would say, is just that, typically LVPs, they try and be as demand responsive as possible. And in order to kind of facilitate that, right, we have that decay process built in and the ability for buys and sells to take place. This is more, you could say, just like a traditional kind of like offering, if you will, where there's going to basically be no deviation, right, beyond the initial decay. Eventually, it's going to go to just that fixed price. So what measures are in place to ensure trust and integrity? I would say primarily the LBP model itself kind of helps tremendously with that already. Otherwise, when it comes down to that, it's going to always be kind of on curator and project selection. And the best that we can do on our front to kind of help aid that endeavor is going to be really more around, just being proactive about curations when it comes to, who's actually on the platform. Are we keeping up with kind of like their track record, what they're doing? Have they been slacking or not? Like, are they actually engaging and providing, useful services for projects that are coming to Fjord, making sure that they're managing the ecosystem well, stuff like that. Another one was, how does the token vesting through Sablier work? So it's pretty simple in the sense that since it's integrated with Fjord, if a LVP was to have that, you'd basically have to just navigate to Sablier, click into their app, and basically, I believe, if I remember correctly, too, there's a specifically as a recipient model for incoming streams. So you would check that and see if you have any streams coming to you for your associated address, and then from there you can just basically claim the stream and should be good to go on that front. So it's a pretty simple process. If I missed anything, I guess Equinox can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident that's how it goes. And that kind of like doubles up with the same. So another like kind of similar question was, can you walk us through the process for accessing vested token NFTs post LBP? I believe that's just referring to the fact that the actual stream from Sablier is that of an NFT that gives you your tokens to you. So same thing, just connect to the site, look for your claim as a recipient, and see what streams you have available to you. So next question was, how will staking rewards be handled? So I can kind of go into a couple different aspects of staking that's coming out in regards to kind of like how they're earned and the reward issuance and kind of the parameters around it. So any Fjord rewards that opt for the vesting should be basically going in like a week-to-week block for it. So that means that once it's actually ready to be released, 21 days after that vesting begins, there's also the potential for a vesting penalty. So that just means that if you claim it before 21 days has concluded on that, you risk losing 50% of the rewards. And then the remaining 50% will get basically redistributed back to Fjord stakers that have basically not voided that vesting penalty. And then when it comes to a locking basis, they'll be locked for 6 weeks once staked. For reward issuance, it's pretty simple in the sense that if you're familiar with like the kind of like sushi model with like X tokens, stuff like that, it's basically a receipt token you get for staking. You can opt to collect them at any time, so long as the vesting schedule is not interrupted, as I mentioned before. And I mentioned the lock already. I think someone asked quite a lengthy one, but it boils down to just kind of like what's the rationale behind it. And it's really easy to distro in this manner. That's really what it comes down to. Not much else to add on kind of like the color scenario there. Someone asked, just about a month in from the launch, how does the team feel like the first month has been? I'll say very good. I mean, I think expectations internally were basically exceeded them. Typically, though, of course, April, May, June in recent years for kind of like broader crypto seasonality, quite difficult months. But I think all in all, things are going pretty well. I mean, we're still developing, we're getting new features out, we're expanding to different chains, and we're still conducting LBP. So as far as I'm concerned, everything is still in the right direction. Just got to finish executing on everything. Then so a couple of people asked multiple questions about Telegram. So there is a Fear Foundry Telegram that's official, that's set up. We have previously prioritized, kind of like focusing on Discord and Twitter. I think by and large we've kind of done fairly well, at least in kind of like getting those operational, well stood up. So definitely going forward, a lot of priority is going to get shifted to Telegram, making sure that stand up well as well. And now let me just check if there's been any new ones. So that's everyone that I did before. So let's see. Someone asked, when will seed stop dumping? Nobody knows. Same with LBP buyers. Why aren't you asking that too? What problem is this solving for the blockchain space? Trying to create fair price discovery for projects that usually have an issue struggling from arbitrarily set valuations. Of course, I will say this, like rather bluntly, LVPs work the best when there's not like private round baggage, let's say, attached to them. So the more like if you're familiar with like from like 2017 cycle with like ICOs, like when it's kind of like the first offering, like with a really broad distribution target, like that's really what it's all about, is trying to conduct that as well as possible with fair distribution and price discovery. How can we verify the promise of spending 90% earnings to buy back and burn Fjord tokens going through? We can see the dead wallet, but is there a way to see total earnings and total bought and burned tokens? It's all viewable on chain, so I mean you can literally just follow the money. Everything that gets collected on a fee basis gets brought back to Ethereum mainnet, consolidate it, and then use to conduct the random buybacks for now, right, until staking is out. Is this project ran by a DAO? It is not. Can I talk about? I did talk about centralized exchange listings previously. Andy's covered this one about developers. Do I have to restake after the stake period ends? No, you'll be good once you're in. Airdrops for token holders. I think that's relating to what we previously discussed in the sense that we're looking at many different ways to try and figure out how we can basically take a share of project tokens that are coming through Fjord and distribute them to actual like FJO stakers. It is in the works. There's a lot of different features that we're trying to basically tailor make towards that. Whether that's even just like helping them conduct like LBP parameterizations. Another one that like Equinox touch on is like the LBP spotlight that can be there. It can be paid in the actual underlying project tokens. So that could be a way to accumulate them as well. So we're definitely trying to work that in. I mean, we think it's a super compelling reason to be a FJO staker. So we're looking at the best ways to kind of be able to accrue a significant amount, right, on a per project basis for stakers. All right. So any other questions? We can also, if anybody wants, they can always raise the hand and come up to the stage as well. Actually, I have a notification in general chat, so let's see if someone asked a question there too. Well, it's over. It's not a question, but I appreciate the compliment. Will there be more chains LP integrate? Is that in regard to like for the LP rollover on like a post LBP basis? Oh, you're driving. Okay. It might be hard for you to respond. I can say that there's definitely going to be more chains, like chain deployments, and there's definitely going to be more dexes incorporated for the auto LP rollover on said chains. If that answers kind of potentially both ways that you could have interpreted that. Got 2 people typing, so just give me. Oh, we got 3 typing, several people typing. We'll see what they got question wise. Also, yeah, like I was saying before, feel free if it's easier to just speak it, raise your hand, request to come up on the stage.
Regarding the stakers, will you have to stake for a fixed amount of time, or can you unstake at any time?
Yeah, so I covered that already. So like I said, once you stake, there's the 6-week lock period. If you interrupt it prior, you basically forfeit potentially 50% of whatever the accumulated rewards were for that period. Those then get redistributed back to stakers that have not broken their lock period, basically. Can we automate the process of buying from different chains? For example, if a project is on ETH chain, but we have Sol on Sol chain, will it be possible to pay the Sol and buy the token? Yes. Now, in regards to automating it, potentially that's doable through the limit order system, but like I said, that also depends on kind of like UniV4 deployments as well. So, and Andy, since you're in chat, I see maybe you can correct me if I'm off on this one, but I believe going forward, so long as there's that UniV4 capacity on any chain, then you can construct limit orders and then handle it through the LeFi Stargate integration if they're accessible via them.
Yeah, I mean, we just released cross-chain Zaps, so it should be possible. I'm not sure if Solana is part of that right now. Andy could maybe clarify, but yeah, this should already be possible.
When will we be starting implementation of all that was discussed? Well, it's ongoing, right? That's kind of the one thing I touched on before is that it's a iterative process for us. So certain things that are able to be, let's say, released in a short order, they get, released, and then things that are kind of like, let's say, meteor, requires a lot more, like a Solana deployment. It's in a different language. I got to be super careful about it, make sure everything's good. Takes a little bit longer, especially just because of the audit requirement. So a lot of the times, what ends up happening is it's all happening. It's just that we're kind of waiting on the audit to come back, and they can sometimes take a lot longer than you would anticipate.
Right, and there might be bugs and stuff too that they find and that we got to fix because we want to make sure things are safe and secure before we actually deploy it.
Yeah, so there's a roadmap. I think it's been posted in a Twitter thread, and then also back when the kind of like LVP announcement for Fjord itself came up, that's largely still intact for the most part. The only thing that's really deviated a lot from it was the Solana deployment, and that's just because of kind of rough estimate was given, kind of where it is. And I mean, we did put a little disclaimer just that these are subject to change. A lot of the times, the actual building efforts towards all these can get a little bit complicated and push things back, or sometimes other things complete a lot sooner. So there is one there. It hasn't changed substantively, but we can also publish a new one that kind of can act as like the new guiding one and kind of like where we're at now. So I'll get on that as well on the back end side and get that out. But yeah, so Equinox just published the current one, so I would recommend going to check that out. Staking platform ETA, June still on. Yeah, so right now, staking I would say is actually technically ahead of schedule, so it should be out relatively soon for everybody. You are not wrong. A lot of people, yeah, they don't understand, I guess, a lot of the like hidden complexity that goes into pushing these, product features out, especially update wise. And he kind of broke down feature, roadmap. So I'm assuming that's market cap expectations. I will not comment on that, but of course I am very bullish. Wouldn't be wasting my time here if I'm not. It's $1 program. Nobody knows. Ask the Magic 8 Ball. When Lambo, I'm gonna hit you with the classic soon. Soon, TM. I mean, I think I can even just like add like broader context. I mean, I can speak a little bit on kind of like market cycle, etc. A lot of people kind of like are going with this like left translated cycle narrative right now. I mean, a lot of the things they run under, a little bit of a liquidity cycle that we're kind of going underway with. I would also say that macro wise, you shouldn't be bearish. I mean, they haven't cut rates yet. Yield curve hasn't, gone back positive. Like everything is still chugging along very nicely, actually. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that so many people were bearish on the timeline. It's usually a counter signal. Just keep that in mind. Oh, we're delivering, sir. And I also look forward to seeing haters cry later, of course. Okay, so I went back real quick to the flat. So someone asked, will you have to stake for a fixed amount of time, or can you unstake it anytime? So once you're past the 6-week lock, you should be good to go on unstaking whenever you want, because then you won't have to worry about forfeiting any accrued rewards from that initial staking duration.
If anyone wants to come up and ask some questions on stage too, feel free to come on up here. I think we'll probably end up wrapping this call up pretty soon.
Oh, I saw some. I accidentally clicked out. I would say, yeah, liquid staking doesn't really make sense in this case. Actually, maybe Andy could add. I actually don't know if this is the case, but is the X token for basically the receipt for staking on FJO? Is it a transferable token or is it non-transferable? Andy, if you can add that color and context into the chat, please. It's not transferable. Okay, yeah. So Potentially, a liquid staking equivalent could be made, but I don't. Like I said, I don't really think it warrants it, especially just because 6 weeks. It's not really that elongated of a duration for it all. Anything new about curators for the future? Maybe expand on that a little bit. Like, is that regarding new curators coming on, current curators leaving, stuff like that? Like, or like maybe like an update to the curation process. The process, gotcha. So there's internal discussion around kind of how to like revamp it. Nothing is solidified just yet, but we are working on making changes there. So I will say that there is going to be changes to the creation process going forward, and we will of course keep everybody up to date on that and make a post about it. That is part of the discussion along curation 2 is, yeah, as Andy wrote in the chat, potentially opening up Fjord community curation. I mean, if it is something that the community wants, like, definitely we'll do it then. All right, Equinox, what do you think, sir? Should we wrap it up? If anybody has any other questions, feel free.
Yeah, I think the time is drawing near to